Okay, awesome. Doug, good to see you.
Hi, Doug Klotz, here for Inner Southeast Action.
Jane.
Jane Monson, the representative from Eastmoreland Neighborhood Association for the next 13 days.
Glad you could be here tonight. Roger Gonzalez.
Hi everyone, Roger Gonzalez, use pronouns like he, they. I'm a project manager with Prosper Portland, here to present on the East Portland tax increment finance exploration. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here. Good to see you. Lisa, are you there?
I am. Good evening. Lisa Abloff with Prosper Portland. I use she, her pronouns. I'm actually joining you from my home in Southeast Portland. It's great to be here.
Okay, congrats. Glad you could be here. And our other Lisa Maddox.
Hi, Lisa Maddox. I'm the land use representative for North Tabor Neighborhood Association.
Glad you could make it out tonight. Sarah.
Hello, I'm Sarah Harple. I'm a senior project manager with Prosper Portland, and I'm here with Roger to co-present on the TIF exploration process specific to the Central City.
Glad you could be here. Jeffrey, can you say hello? Glad you
Hey everyone, Jeffrey Hamlin, he, him pronouns representing Sunnyside land use. Thank you.
Kiana, did I say your name correctly?
Yep, you nailed it. Hi, I'm Kiana Vallow with Prosper Portland, and I am on both the Central City and East Portland TIF exploration teams. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
Glad you could be here. Maria.
Hi, I'm Maria. I'm a neighbor. Oh, sorry, my camera. I am a resident from Woodstock.
Glad you could be here. Jacob, hello.
Hi, I'm Jacob Loeb. I'm the president of the 82nd Avenue Business Association, and I'm the 82nd Avenue TIF Working Group member.
Awesome. Glad you could be here tonight. Nick, hello.
Hey there, I'm Nick with Buckman Neighborhood Association. He, him.
All right, glad you could be here. Now, people here with us tonight, I should go around. Bill.
Bill Cunningham with the Portland Bureau of Planning and Sustainability, and the Southeast District Planner, he, him pronouns.
And Pam.
Hello, Pam Hodge, Redwood Darlington Neighborhood Association, she, her pronouns.
Oh, awesome. Glad to be here. Hayden, hi.
I'm Aiden Garcia. I just live in the Richmond area. I've never been here before. I don't have anything to add value, but you know, here to learn.
I'm so glad you're here. Okay.
Hey everyone, my name is Matt Tuckerbaum. I live in the Richmond neighborhood, and I'm here to present for Portland Neighbors Forum tonight. Please he, him pronoun.
Cool. Well, without further ado, we have three big agenda items tonight. The first being the tax increment finance exploration with Prosper Portland. And after that, we'll have Inner Eastside for all, and Portland Neighbors Welcome present. And finally, we'll end with an update on the earthquake for Ready Burnside Bridge. So without further ado, Prosper Portland.
Hello. Again, my name is Sarah Harple with Prosper Portland. We have kind of a three-part presentation. We're going to go through it at a pretty rapid clip today. But please, we want to make sure we have time for discussion or questions at the end, but please stop us if you have questions along the way or at the end. Three kind of components we're going to cover this evening. The first is just a couple quick slides on what is TIF, or tax increment financing, just to kind of orient you. And then I'm going to run through a few slides around our TIF exploration process for the Central City. And then I will hand it off to Roger, who will run through our companion TIF exploration process for the East Portland neighborhoods as well. So with that, I think Kiana's going to share some slides and we'll get started.
Could someone please allow share screen? Thank you.
So I'm feeling under the weather, so if I go into coughing or sneezing fit, I'm going to hand it over to Lisa to jump in for me. So apologies in advance.
For the participants, can we come right up? There you are.
Okay, there we go. Should be good to go now.
And next slide. All right. So first, what is tax increment financing? So as we'll discuss in the coming slides around the exploration process, we are undertaking a process to evaluate which portions of Portland could potentially be included in tax increment districts. So what that means is we draw a geographic boundary, and within that geographic boundary, the tax values that are collected at that time of the designation of that boundary will continue to flow to our taxing jurisdiction partners, whether it is schools, the county, the city. But at that time, we create what we call the frozen base, which you see in the gray. Once that district is formed and property taxes increase over time within that created district, that increase in tax value, or that increment, flows to the city of Portland via Prosper Portland and the Portland Housing Bureau for investment back into that defined geography. So it has to be invested back into the district that is producing it. Our tax districts or tax increment districts typically last somewhere around 30 years. So over time, you will see that reinvestment occur within that district. In some of our districts that have been very successful, you'll also see in the lighter blue, there will be an earlier return of increased value back to those taxing jurisdictions. When the district closes and the debt is paid off associated with the district at the end of the 30 years, then all tax value that is collected in that district that has increased over time since the creation of that district then flows back to the taxing jurisdictions as it did pre the creation of that district. So I think one important takeaway is it's not a new tax or an increase in taxes. It is just a 30-year kind of direction of those taxes for investment back into the district that is creating them and for very specific purposes. There you go, the next slide. So tax increment financing, or TIF as we'll call it, needs to be invested back into the district that creates it, and for physical, what we call it sticks and bricks improvements. So it can be for loans and grants to redevelop buildings or develop new property. It can be for property acquisition, either by Prosper Portland or the Portland Housing Bureau that we then let through competitive processes for redevelopment in a public-private partnership. It supports affordable housing throughout the city. Where within the created districts, we can support both small businesses and kind of anchor employer retention and recruitment through physical space or tenant improvements or creation of new headquarters for anchor employers. We're also often a companion investor with our bureau partners in parks, streets, sidewalks, and transportation systems within the city. And then there's administrative costs associated with the district as well. You can see a couple pictures, and we'll have a couple more examples. Some of the well-known investments of TIF have been the East Bank Esplanade. You see the workshop blocks in the Central East Side up in the top left photo. The Nines Hotel downtown, Director Park, the Vestas North American headquarters, which was in the River District and Pearl District, Blue and Arrow Bridge, a few examples of kind of well-known investments that TIF has helped in our central city. In East Portland, in our neighborhoods, the Asian Health Sciences Services Center, the Gateway Discovery Park, the Portland Mercado, the Fish Development are all several examples of where TIF has also been invested in our neighborhoods.
This is her show. Okay.
We find ourselves at a point in time now where many of the districts that we have or that have concluded were formed in the 80s and the 90s and have kind of lived their full life. The objectives of those districts have been accomplished. The resources have been fully allocated or are near fully allocated. So you'll see here kind of the timeline of when districts are created, and those that are in blue or orange are kind of concluding or sunsetting. So they have little to no resources remaining. In the central city, the one district we have remaining with resources is the North Macadam, and then in the neighborhoods is the Gateway and the Cully districts. So in a post-pandemic time, we find ourselves kind of without the resources that we have typically relied on for investment in our central city, as well as in our neighborhoods to support housing development as well. There is a state rule that sets that the maximum amount of acreage or tax value that can be in a TIF district within the city of Portland is 15%. So as those districts I was just walking through are kind of coming off are concluding, we'll be at a point where we have only 3% of the acreage and the assessed value within an existing TIF district. So that gives us kind of a pool of AV and acreage for us to use in our exploration process. So City Council directed both the exploration process, but also set out kind of separate allocations of those acreage and AV for us to use in our exploration processes so that they weren't in tension with each other. So in East Portland, which Roger will talk through in a minute, there is 7,500 acres and $6 billion in assessed value to support the East Portland exploration process. In the Central City, there's 1,500 acres and 3.8 billion in assessed value. So I'm going to walk through, I guess I'll pause for a second. Are there any kind of questions of clarification of just how TIF works? Otherwise, we'll get into kind of our exploration processes and some of the priorities that are coming up through those specific to the geographies, but just kind of a TIF 101, any questions for clarification?
Sarah, you said there's a 3% max acreage per district. Does that typically mean, is that correct?
No, there's 15% citywide. When the districts that are concluding right now will be wrapping up this fiscal year, we will be at 3%. So we have the delta between the 3% and the 15% cap to support the exploration process across the entire city.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to jump into the Central City process. Also, when the City Council set out with the allocation to support the exploration process, they also kind of supported or gave nod to both the investment priorities and the areas for exploration. So in the Central City, we were coming off of work to support the Advanced Portland, which is the economic development strategy. We had done a lot of analysis with Eco Northwest that looked at the health of the various sub-districts within the Central City in a post-COVID recovery state and how they were faring across the board. Those that are circled in yellow are the districts that either had a slower recovery and or were also anchored by major development opportunities, whether it's the OMSI master plan area, the Lloyd Mall redevelopment, Albina Vision Trust, and the Broadway corridor, and then just the health and vitality of many of those districts also coming off the pandemic. And then the 5 priorities you see here on the screen were also consistent with kind of the goals and objectives of the Advanced Portland Economic Development Strategy. So that was kind of our framework that we set forth in our exploration process. We have a 40-member steering committee who has been supporting us in this process. They have spent some of their time. We've been convening with them since last October, I believe. We have spent kind of the first third of their work in 3 subcommittees. So in the kind of subject matter expertise around housing production, both affordable and middle income housing, around small business and major employer, focus retention recruitment of major employers in our cluster industries, and then a third group around those major development opportunity sites, just recognizing that they have unique needs around kind of infrastructure that's kind of unique to those districts. And then we convened back as a full steering committee and started to work through scenarios that we built off of the input that we had collected through that process. So here you'll see our first 3.5 scenarios that we put forward for kind of reaction and feedback with the steering committee in response to kind of different themes we were hearing. So scenario A really focuses on the sentiment of both sides of the river were very important. So embracing the river. This one has a slightly higher balance towards the east side, again, because of that kind of the tracking along the river, but also having kind of a smaller focus retail core area than as a result, because we were staying under that cap of assessed value and acreage. Scenario B was responsive to some of the sentiment that we heard that says, you know, you really need to get a healthy downtown right before you do anything else at the expense of a healthy downtown. So this was a scenario that kind of mapped out what that would look like. And then scenario C was kind of the balance between the two. And so a little bit more balance in terms of acreage and assessed value on both sides of the river. This was also responsive to some of the feedback we heard around the ability or the relationship between Old Town and downtown. And so testing what does it look like for the Old Town shown in green to be a very tight geography, so it has some kind of autonomy and independence, but also what are the financial implications of being a small district versus what did it look like for them to be part of a larger geography. Next slide, please. What we heard really was the strongest support was for scenario A. There was also sentiment that the west side could maybe become a single district, kind of as a result of that testing. What did it look like for Old Town to kind of be in an independent state that really was not financially viable for them? And so I think they very quickly saw, as did kind of the surrounding neighborhoods in downtown, the importance of being together in a single district. And then there was continued support for the anchor development sites. There was some questioning around kind of the purple leg that you see tracking along the east waterfront of really what were the investment opportunities that there, given the amount of infrastructure that exists in that location, as well as wanting to see maybe waiting to kind of incorporate that area into a future TIF district once there was kind of more planning that was done in coordination with the China Vision Trust. You'll note that none of the districts incorporate the Albina Vision Trust area. They participated and are participating on our steering committee. They felt like the pace of the timeline was not right for them, but they continue to be at the table with us and are curious about whether a future opportunity might better meet their needs or not when other districts come off the ledger and more more acreage and assessed value is available. So we'll continue to be in partnership with them to explore their interests. What you see here is kind of late breaking news. So these are the final districts that we'll be putting forward. You'll see the blue and the West Side district starts to have some kind of small removal of various parcels. Those are high assessed value parcels that needed to be removed. Big Pink is an example that need to be removed so that we didn't blow through that cap on assessed value. On the Lloyd district, you'll see this picks up, is really anchored by the Lloyd Mall, also picks up the Portland bottling development opportunity, and is as well as the Burnside Weidler kind of couplet and small businesses and an affordable housing development opportunity. It also tracks to kind of the vision in the Lloyd Mall master plan of kind of a 12th Avenue promenade that connects north-south within the district, so it also encompasses that geography. What you see in the orange then is really anchored by the OMSI development opportunity, as well as feedback we heard around the importance of kind of tracking along MLK and Grand for the commercial development in that area, as well as along Stark Avenue. And is responsive to the feedback of kind of waiting to see that further extension of the waterfront development as a future opportunity. We do have an existing Central Eastside district that will be amended to be shrunk because there are still some resources available. So those resources will continue to be available in that geography you see in the light yellow, which includes the workshop blocks. And then the diagram on the left just kind of outlines like I think of as a funnel of the process we went through to hone in on these recommendations and with the process we went through with our steering committee. So really observing existing conditions and investment priorities, working with them to refine around specific opportunity sites, and then looking at a balance of residential and commercial development opportunities, as well as properties that have a strong assessed value versus properties that will benefit from future investment to kind of have a stable district in today's economic environment, and then ultimately that cap on the AB and acreage. Next slide, please. This shows the financial modeling then for the 3 new districts. You'll see ranges here. We did some sensitivity testing. So we showed 3% has historically been kind of our standard modeling of 3% of growth in assessed value over time to calculate the resources available in any district. In the West Side, we were more conservative. So we said, what if growth is slower because of some of the uncertainty around some of our high density commercial real estate in the downtown core specifically? So what does it look like if we don't see the growth we historically have seen in downtown? What might a more conservative amount of resources be? And then the Lloyd and the kind of the Central East Side OMSI district, we did the opposite because we have those large development opportunity sites. So what does it look like in the last 15 years of the district if those large scale development opportunity sites were unlocked and you really saw kind of greater than standard growth because of the significance of the development and the value coming online in those districts? You'll also see that it is the city's policy that they can issue debt once there's kind of enough kind of stabilized growth within the district. So we have modeled at about the end of year 5, we can start issuing debt and financing. So you'll start to see a ramp up in values kind of post year and resources available post year 5. But in the first 5 years of each district, it's relatively minor resources that are available. I'll note that these also include resources both for, there's a 45% of the resources are set aside for the Portland Housing Bureau for affordable housing. So this includes their resources as well. Next slide, please. And then this starts to just show kind of a draft allocation against the priorities that we have developed with our steering committee around economic development, affordable housing, and infrastructure, and what might an allocation of those resources look like across the districts over the full life of the district. We also had feedback through our process around support for kind of an action planning approach, which is something we have done in Old Town Chinatown, as well as Interstate, Gateway, and Lentz. So working with the community to develop kind of more fine-tuned 5-year budgets and investment priorities. So while the TIF plans can have kind of high-level, broad set of eligible projects and the total resources available on a 5-year basis, we can work with community to fine-tune priorities. So that's the approach we're recommending moving forward. Next slide, please. So this gets into kind of the question of who decides. So if city council authorizes the creation of the TIF district, so ultimately that is their decision to make. So assuming the districts are created, then the Prosper Portland board would oversee the economic development related resources. So the 55% that would flow to Prosper Portland, and city council would have jurisdiction over the 45% of resources that flow to the Portland Housing Bureau for affordable housing investment. As I just mentioned, we are then talking, we are proposing working with ad hoc committees every 5 years to establish those community-based action plans to guide investment priorities that would also inform the annual budgets within Prosper Portland, which are ultimately up to our board and city council to approve. And you'll see here, we've started to kind of take a first pass at potential participants in those action planning committees to develop the 5-year action plans. So open for feedback here, but you will see the hand of Buckman Neighborhood Associations, the Kern Neighborhood Association, Lloyd Community Association in their respective geographies, as well as downtown and Old Town Chinatown. And so kind of where we're at today is finalizing the boundaries, the district boundaries this past week, and really the menu of eligible projects that TIF could be spent on in any given district. We are in the process of drafting the TIF plans and reports for all 6 districts, so George will speak to the other 3 in a minute. And we really need to be pencils down at the beginning of August. So we will be consulting with our steering committee one last time on refining any changes, and then really be pencils down to move into our legislative approval process that goes before Planning Commission and City Council. It includes public notice through September, and we're scheduled for an approval by City Council, our recommendation for City Council in late October. So that was a ton of information on Central City. I can pause for a minute, or we can go into East Portland, and then we can come back for questions across all the efforts.
If anyone has any questions, please. I'm just kind of wondering, like, if the adoption timeline is more or less the same between East Portland TIFs and Central City, or is there any variation or deviation?
It's the same. We're currently packaging it with the same city council briefings and hearings. Part of that is in part within our current, we'll be having kind of change to our government structure. And so you have kind of a structure that is in place now that is familiar and directed the exploration process. And just knowing kind of the upheaval that will change as we move into a new form of government, and kind of knowing that focus will be elsewhere for some period of time. Also, any district that is made before the end of the calendar year goes into effect the next July. So if that process was to slip even, like, say 2 months, then the actual creation of the district and the accumulation of resources is delayed then another calendar year. So that's kind of 2 reasons why we're targeting that December effective date.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for that overview. Central City.
All right, I'm going to hand over to Roger to go through East Portland.
Hi, everyone. I think I will also need, or maybe we already have the ability to share. Perfect. I do. Awesome. Okay. Let's just do full screen. Okay, so as Sarah mentioned, this was an exploration that was directed by City Council back in about June of last year, in which Council directed Prosper Portland and the Portland Housing Bureau to partner with community to explore the utilization of TIF in East Portland with the possibility of creating up to 3 districts. Utilizing around 7,500 acres or $6 billion in assessed value property overall. So Commissioner Rubio pulled together a group of folks on the steering committee that launched at around August of last year to help sort of do this high level guidance overview, kind of thinking through the 3 sort of East Portland at large. From there, we had a couple of steering members kind of volunteer for each of these working groups. The working groups had an open call application process to select members to participate in each of the 3 working groups that we were looking at. Those working groups then took that kind of high level guidance from the steering committee and then refined, kind of got into the finer details of what does this actually mean? What are the sort of final boundaries? What are the kinds of projects that we have? So we'll have 3 there that we're working on. These names are subject to change, just as an FYI, but we've been sort of focusing on East 205 working group. So that's east of I-205. And I'll show you some of the proposed boundaries here in a sec. There's the Park Rose Columbia Corridor Working Group and 82nd Avenue Working Group, of which at least I think 1 member is here, which is great. It's always super helpful to have working group members here to also share about their perspective and experience on this process. So all 3 of these are working in parallel. And of course, these are in parallel to the work that is going on in the Central City TIF exploration. We have been working on engagement and exploration. This is part of that engagement and exploration. We are now at a stage where we have draft plans that have been created. We'll be refining those over the next couple of months here. We'll have a consistency check probably at about July, making sure we tidy up all the last sort of pieces that remain from the working groups or from the community engagement that we're doing over the next month or 2, or wrapping up on this phase in the next month or 2, before we move into the adoption process, which Sarah mentioned, I believe should kick off at about August of this summer, basically. It was important to note that following the advocacy from EPAT members and the direction from City Council, at any phase in this process, a working group may choose not to move forward. So as Sarah mentioned, we have a council that is familiar with TIF, that is a sort of a willing partner in this, has said, hey, please go explore the use of TIF in these areas of our city and get as far as you can by the fall of 2024. While there is still sort of the ability for them to approve or consider that kind of the creation of up to 3 districts, at least in East Portland. Okay, so there are a few main pieces to a TIF district plan. There are things like these existing conditions, which is really why are we kind of here or in the general area that we're exploring. District boundaries, which is where exactly will we be essentially pulling future growth and property taxes to reinvest back in that same area of which we're pulling those revenues from. There's an eligible projects list, which is essentially what we are allowed to spend these on. Again, as Sarah has mentioned, physical, permanent built stuff is what we are talking about. Implementation principles is really something that's kind of an extra added on piece here. That's not necessarily something that's legally required under RS 457, but it's really about how should we be thinking about these very different kinds of investments over 30 years. The governance charter itself is talking about who is supporting this, whose role and responsibility is it, who has oversight, what kinds of powers and levers does community have relative to the bureaus, relative to City Council and our Prosper Portland Board of Commissioners. And that is not at all a legally required piece. Again, that is something that we have learned coming off the Cully TIF district exploration, which is really around folks wanting to understand how is this going to work beyond just this moment. and over the next 30 years, and what can they expect so they can have confidence that what they said they want to see out of these, the expenditure of these resources is actually what they'll get. And action planning, as Sarah's mentioned, is also around when you do form this community leadership committee, if a district is formed, then you're looking at the next 5 years of budget. How much are each of these districts going to be pulling in? What are the priorities that we want to set based on that plan over the next 5 years, and do that 5 years at a time? Okay. We're looking at, again, 3 different areas. So the current draft boundary for Park Rose Columbia Corridor, it's typically bounded by about 82nd on the west side, roughly pulling into about, what is that, 77th or so off of Sandy. You'll see these little holes and kind of missing gaps, like railroad right-of-way. That's not really something that we're going to use acreage on, because again, each of these, we have to stay in the overall cap of 7,500 acres. Park Rose Columbia Corridor has about 1,875 acres allotted within that 7,500 acres. Currently bounded by 148th on the east, I-84 on the south, and part of the slough up on the north side. There are 3 hashed areas you'll see here. Those 3 hashed areas were kind of areas that folks were wondering whether, because we still have about 200 acres left in the area to utilize if folks would like to see those pulled into the boundary. You kind of have 3 very different kind of flavors of land uses and communities in there. So the 106 acres up in the slough area, 17 acres running along the commercial corridor side of Sandy out to 161st, and then largely residential on that southern triangle that's formed by Fremont, 148th, and I-84. We expect that, yes.
Would there be a possibility to reshare, like stop your screen sharing and share it again?
Oh, sure, yeah.
I'm getting a message that not everyone's seeing at the moment.
Okay, yeah, no, sorry about that. It's a good time to do that too. Oh, sorry. Here we go. Let us do this again. Okay. I
was able to see on my end, but
okay. Yeah, is this are folks able to see this? I'm gonna not do the full screen mode just in case that is messing things up. How is this looking to folks? I realize I can't really see. John, are you able to see these slides now?
Yep, it looks good to me.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm gonna leave it like this because why mess with it if it is not broken? Okay, so again, these are the boundaries for the Park Rose Columbia Corridor area, expecting to pull in about $330 million or so, 330 million over the 30 years of life that this district will have. On 82nd Avenue, so to the left is the north side of 82nd Avenue. It runs north-south from left to right here. So the southern, so basically the county line here on the right-hand side. Again, largely following the commercial corridor that is 82nd Avenue, some residential, typically staying east of I-205, which is that kind of almost greenish line you see up top there, and has some nodes that extend out. Similarly, we can get into reasons why some of these are the way they look, but largely sticking to conversations that we have at the steering group, talking about important general areas that they want to see us explore on, looking at vulnerability to displacement, which is a physical map that we actually have that we can share if folks are interested in kind of checking out what goes into that. And then the working group kind of talking a little bit about community assets, the commercial corridors they want to see, other properties they want to see out, things that they want to see in. And again, over the life of the district, expecting to receive and to invest about $450 million. And on east of 205, which I think we're gonna, I don't know if it's gonna be renamed, but it's essentially east of 122nd. It's a more appropriate title. This is 122nd, kind of running up and down. It extends out to Division, just shy of I-205, and then extends out to our city limits. So anything you see, these little kind of rough edges here, that is essentially our city limits, bumping up against Gresham there. And then on the north side, just about Glenavere Golf Course is essentially, so Gleason running at the topmost piece there. This is essentially capped out at the acreage that it has to utilize. And again, on the south here, bounded by Powell. So that is this is the largest of the 3 districts coming in at about 3,750 acres. We're expecting that to receive about $770 million to invest over the life of the district. Much of what we are talking about, again, physical, built, permanent stuff, falls into about 5 different buckets of work. So everything under the sun that we have thought of and see fall into each of these sort of 5 categories. So of course, Sarah has mentioned that affordable housing split. So there's affordable housing, commercial property acquisition, development and renovation. That can include things like land banking, small business support, workforce housing, arts, culture, and signage. I think is pretty clear. Most people, or for most folks, recreational improvements can look like putting new gym rec equipment on existing parks, things like that. And then infrastructure improvements, roads, streets, utilities, things like that. For 82nd Avenue, and these are, again, being refined. So Jacob, if I get this wrong, I apologize, but we are currently kind of refining in this moment. But from a high level, what we're looking at, again, in each of those buckets, affordable housing, you're looking at things like down payment assistance, affordable apartments near transit nodes, the request for family-sized, multi-generational housing opportunities. On the commercial economic development side, we're talking about workforce housing, grocery stores, affordable retail spaces and daycare. Credit union has come up, physical and mental health buildings, and obviously much of this is to be determined on the service, the programmatic dollars, because of course TIF dollars cannot be spent on those services, or the programming can only be spent on that physical built form. Arts, culture, and signage, so really looking at performance spaces, multicultural public art space. Recreation, community centers is something that I think has come up on basically all 3 districts at this point. Free youth courts and fields, people wanting to see more things for youth and for younger folks to be able to do, public restrooms. And infrastructure, a lot of requests for pedestrian scale lighting, wanting to see targeted sidewalk, street, and trail improvements. Folks, I think, pretty clearly kind of saying, hey, we don't necessarily want to spend all of our money on these things, on the infrastructure piece, because we want the city to provide what's owed and make sure that it is budgeting for those dollars, and there's some tailored sort of allowances for those kinds of infrastructure needs. Community engagement, this is just a graph. This is just a visual showing that we've been doing a bunch of different things since last summer. And again, this is just for this snapshot in time. If these TIF districts are formed, that's 30 years of a TIF district that we are going to want to stay engaged with the community. We're going to want to stay engaged with you all and continue to hear and refine and work on how do we ensure that we are delivering on what folks expect us to. From a thematic, what have we heard so far? We have some broad perspectives and support. We're really looking at folks that want to see the benefit, these investments benefit those who have been harmed by urban renewal or displaced or are vulnerable to displacement. They want to see help in implementing existing community plans and coordinating and leveraging resources, more affordable and just generally additional housing opportunities. Obviously, in particular for many of our neighborhoods, which have commercial corridors and neighborhood favorite businesses, want to see support for businesses and entrepreneurs, and also corresponding economic opportunities and mobility for residents that live there, spaces to gather, placemaking that really leads to kind of a community pride and sense, investments generally that are creating a safer, accessible, healthier, climate resilient communities, keeping those community-based organizations in the areas in which they are serving folks, and keeping current residents in their communities. On the opposition side, we've seen and heard from a few folks on really skepticism of the tool and history of urban renewal, which we are not shying away from and are very clear about. Concerns about being displaced, want to see more control by the community itself. Again, this timeline having sort of a turnaround of about a year. There was concerns around that and feeling that this process is a bit rushed, which again, at any point, those 3 working groups on the East Portland side can either move forward with a TIF district, decline a TIF district, or request additional time, in which case, we move into 2025, and we're not really sure how that kind of works yet. But of course, we're happy to, if community feels that that is the position they want to take, to provide that update to council in the fall and see where that goes. So potential impacts, another concern that folks are having is the potential impacts to schools and or other services. I think really a lot of like confusion and also just concern. And, you know, I think we've been doing a good job of talking a little bit about that and can get into that if folks have questions. Lack of faith in government agencies to implement this, and concerns about inflation, which I think is somewhat surprised me in this process, but it's something that I heard very clearly at a few of the community sessions and just thought I'd note that. Curiosity, the big, I'll keep this one shorter. A lot of it's really like, what does this mean for me? What does this mean for my neighborhood? What does this mean for my community? And also just wanting to understand how to access these dollars when they're available. That's number 2. And then number 3 is really just wanting to understand more about how this thing works. Like, what is TIF? What does it actually do? How does it actually generate the money? You know, so I think those are the 3 top things in terms of curiosity that folks are having. More information. How do I get these dollars? What does this actually mean for me? Sarah's already covered this, but I pulled this from a joint session that we had at June 3rd. So we're moving into district drafts for review. We're going to discuss any outstanding issues at the beginning of July, likely move into a vote at the end of that or mid or end of that month. August, we're really doing that internal last sort of refinement check, consistency check before we head into the Prosper Portland board hearing on August 28th, subject to change. And then that kind of kicks us off till we get to city council sometime in October. There is a website, prosperportland.us/eastpdx. It is not in any way clever. It's very straightforward, but it has a lot of good information up there, documents, things if folks want to take a poke at things. You can always email the project team. That's the top 3 of us, so me, Dana, Catherine, and I actually think Kiana as well, at East Portland TIF at prosperportland.us. There's also a community project manager that we fund. It is a position that is held by Rosewood Initiative. It is essentially a position that, coming off some of the lessons we've heard from folks, people are not entirely trusting of government, which might be a surprise to some of you. And so what we're really doing there is providing an avenue for community members to connect with somebody who's familiar with the community, who's very familiar with the community, who's lived there, works there, whatever it is. And just has somebody that they feel can carry their concerns, their questions, their support, wherever it is, into the spaces with us as we're kind of refining here. So Paula has been a wonderful partner in that. You can also contact her at paula@rosewoodinitiative.org. Okay, I think that is as fast as I've done that. I'm going to stop sharing now.
Thank you so much, Roger. Really appreciate the overview. Yeah, what would be the best way for people to provide feedback outside of like this meeting? Just those emails you listed there?
Yes, absolutely. Those emails. We also have, I believe, what is it? First and third Thursdays. Here's a good one. First and third Thursdays of the month. This Thursday, the 20th at 9 a.m. We also have Zoom kind of virtual office hours for folks. We usually just hang out for an hour online and talk to folks about the project. Whatever questions they have, folks can do that. The East Portland TIF email is really great if you want to just talk about projects you want to see, concerns you have, questions you have. We're pretty responsive on that, so I think that's also a fantastic way of doing it. Our website also has a survey, a pretty high-level survey on that webpage that Kiana posted there on the chat that you can also take to share some feedback. And then the last thing I'll say is on the East Portland side, on June 27th, Kiana will correct me if I'm wrong, but on June 27th, 5:30 to 7:30 at Rosewood Initiative, we will have our second East Portland TIF open house. So again, that's 5:30 to 7:30 at the Rosewood Initiative building at about 141st and Stark. We would love to gather your input there if you want to hear more about this, if you have any other questions, but really please do not feel like you need to wait for that open house, which is about 10 days away. You can email us, come see us on Thursday. Yeah, those are excellent ways to give us feedback.
And highly recommend them. They're always a good time chatting with you all. I just want to give a minute if anyone has any additional feedback. And just thank you so much.
So much. Will this presentation be available to share with our neighborhood associations?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And there's some details in the chat, so I can share that out with the video too. Cool. Well, thanks so much, everyone. And
Yeah,
really
well, we appreciate the opportunity, really. And again, if folks have any kinds of questions, the 2 emails in there in particular, easiest ways to reach us. Please, like, we want folks to feel like they can ask questions, they can share the things they want to see, whatever it is. And again, we'll hope to see you at the end of this month. But again, don't feel like you need to just kind of come up with something now. We are available and welcome that conversation. Happy to grab coffee or whatever it is. So, and we will send those prezzies over to you as well, so you can share out to members.
Cool. Thanks so much. Pass over to Portland Neighbors Welcome.
Okay. Anyways, make sure I'm close to the speaker. Cool. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Machu, for inviting us to present tonight. I mentioned at the top, but for those that just as a reminder, my name is Matt Tuckerbaum. I'm a board member at Portland Neighbors Welcome. We are an all-volunteer organization that works to build, that believes that housing is a human right. And we work on making that a reality here in Portland through a number of initiatives that focus on housing justice and housing abundance within the city. We are here tonight because we're working on a campaign called Inner Eastside for All, which very much has to do with the neighborhoods associated with Southeast Uplift. We've had conversations with many folks and wanted to come to this venue to chat with folks about our idea as well, to share a little bit more about what we're thinking. So with a little bit more background about Portland Neighbors Welcome, what we do really is to organize to remove barriers to a housing abundance and justice. What that means in practice is looking for barriers that exist within our rules and regulations that make it harder to build the number of homes that we need for everyone to have the home that works best for them within Portland. And that might be limiting the number of homes that can be built through zoning, mandating design review, applying regulations to multifamily housing that don't apply to single family housing, institutionalizing long permitting timelines, or maintaining or increasing parking requirements. These are a number of barriers that have long in Portland and in many other parts of the country made it so that housing has gotten incredibly expensive, not nearly available enough for everyone that needs it. And so we work to remove these barriers because we love neighbors and we want more of them. The big barrier to that at the moment is really a very clear shortage of housing. An insufficient supply of housing has driven up housing prices as well as rents. And thousands of Portlanders, as we all know, have lost their homes, and thousands more are desperately trying to stay housed every day. This graph shows 2 different things. This was put together by the Oregon Office of Economic Analysis. Shows that over time, over the last 30 years or so, especially within the last 5 years, but over the last 10 years, the cost of housing has steadily risen as a share of median family income, as well as the increase of the monthly payments that folks are are paying in order to have a home. And that's really spiked over the last 4 years. Everything really changed when COVID hit and really exacerbated a problem that had already been brewing for a long time. And so that's really the roots of our campaign. So how did we get here? How did those regulations come to be that have made it so hard to build housing? Changing dynamics of the city in the 60s and 70s due to suburbanization and white flight made all sorts of changes within the city that and the city reflected upon that and wrote a document in 1977 called their population strategy that contended that the city had too many of the young and the old, the lower income and unemployed, minorities and renters. And at the same time, the property values were starting to fall because people were moving out. So the Planning Bureau attempted to stabilize those property values through downzoning and explicitly made a decision to try to attract middle class families that were interested in single family homes, the white, the American dream, the white picket fence and the yard. Those things in many ways helped to accomplish what they were trying to accomplish at the time. But in the process made the construction of new apartment buildings illegal everywhere except for along major corridors. Whereas previously, up to that point, new apartment buildings were legal throughout much, if not all of the city. The consequence is that downzoning to prop up housing prices and attract the right people, quote unquote, right people, has not really been revisited in many parts of the city, including our inner east side areas. And that's created really high housing costs and exclusionary neighborhoods. The Inner East Side for All campaign seeks to reverse this and achieve both affordability and inclusion. So what is the Inner East Side for All? Our vision is to make sure that all Inner East Side neighborhoods are vibrant neighborhoods that serve people of all ages, stages, and wages. That's the most inclusive way that we can summarize what a complete neighborhood looks like in our vision. Practically, what we would love to see is a re-legalization. So just as they were made illegal in the 1980s, we would like to re-legalize street scale apartments and corner stores throughout inner East Portland. The way that we say that is 4 floors and corner stores. So our suggested boundaries are aligned to a number of different cuts of data, basically, that the city has put together over time, and is basically from Powell on the southern border to Fremont on the northern border, and then 12th and 7th along the west side, and 60th and 58th on the east side. This area is basically the area that is most high opportunity with the lowest capacity for housing today. And that combination is really what's creating the particularly exclusionary and high price consequences that we're dealing with today. The idea of this large area to propose is that a broad distribution of change allows for more gradual evolution rather than the intense changes along corridors that have long been the policy of the city. So a lot of what we would like to see is really visualized in what is common in many of our neighborhoods today already. The Alphabet District, Goose Hollow, many parts of Buckman and Sunnyside and Kearns already have a wide variety of housing types co-located with each other, versus where you might find a small 6 to 8 apartment building on a side street with lots of street trees. That kind of thing is virtually impossible to build new these days because of that downzoning that happened in the 80s. So like I mentioned, this map shows at the reddest, darkest points, the areas what the city has called high opportunity, which is basically proximity to childhood education, employment, transportation, family wage jobs, community amenities that promote healthy, active living. Basically, it's an amenity-rich area that people are really fortunate to live in. And so the redder that this map is, the higher the opportunity score as determined by the city. And what we see here, it's a little bit hard to see at this scale, but basically, the area that is the most red, or either the top tier or the second to top tier, is in the central city, often a place with lots of housing capacity, and those lots of amenities. But on the inner east side, there's a lot of amenities, but not nearly as much housing capacity. And so what we're trying to do is bring that more in line with each other. One thing that we're really excited about in this is that it's really important to also bring back, re-legalize commercial spaces throughout the inner east side neighborhoods. We have a photo here of Clinton Street Market in Richmond, at 34th and Clinton. This idea of having coffee shops, grocery stores, flower shops, pharmacies, is basically the idea of being able to meet your daily needs in closer proximity to your home, so that you can have stronger connections with your community, and spend less time in a car, spend more time enjoying your neighborhood, and than having to go to a farther corridor or center in order to meet your daily needs. One question here, and that is really important to us, is affordability. There is no doubt that affordability is needed. More affordable housing is needed, and that's something that we've supported quite strongly. There are a number of different policies that we think are really important. And one of the things that's most critical to make housing, more affordable housing feasible, is to create more space for it. One of the things that we're really limited by today with the centers and corridors strategy that we have to zoning right now, is it creates a lot of competition, intense competition for opportunities to create more housing. And that's something that drives up cost and makes it much harder for either governmental organizations, say Metro with the housing bond, or with nonprofit developers to be able to develop more affordable housing without competing with private developers for every single lot that might be available. Additionally, really our housing crisis is so bad that we need more housing across the income spectrum. So things have gotten so bad at the bottom level that really at every single level the entire housing market has been disrupted, and so it's really just critical for us to expand on every level. One question that we get very often in this is, what about traffic and congestion? One thing that we've learned is that 51% of all car trips in Portland are less than 3 miles. So by putting more daily essentials closer together with those four floors and corner stores, fewer people will need cars. And we already have such a strong foundation to build on, of really great walkable and bikeable neighborhoods, that we see a lot of opportunity for that to get even better, and to help meet our climate goals in the process. We also get questions about neighborhood character. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of what we're proposing already exists in some of Portland's most desirable neighborhoods. And so we firmly believe that mid-rise buildings can coexist harmoniously with single family homes, and everything in between. And so that's something that there's lots of evidence for throughout the city. And ultimately, more neighbors closer together creates community. Living in a mixed-use neighborhood reduces your carbon footprint. It allows people to age within the communities that they have lived in for a long time. I had put together this slide shortly after the January snowstorm, and the idea that folks don't have to drive in from far out to open their shops would make us a lot more resilient, and just create a better sense of community overall, which is something that's really important to us. So the reason that we're here today is that we are trying to let folks know about what we're doing, find folks that are excited about this and want to contribute to some of these solutions to solving the housing crisis here in Portland and on the east side. As a practical matter, from a bureaucratic approach perspective, the way that we are progressing with this is to request that the city dedicate Bureau of Planning and Sustainability staff to plan out this zoning change over the next 3 to 4 years. And what that means is just to say, to understand what is most feasible, what is most desirable. There's lots of opportunity to shape that process, and that's something that we wanna participate in. But what we need to do is to get the ball rolling within city policy and within city staffing. And so that's where we're going right now. And so we would love partnership from anyone that's interested in helping out with that. So we'd love to take questions if anyone is interested.
Who drew the arbitrary lines around the area?
Around basically what the limits are of what, so we went through a lot of research, and I can show some more maps about kind of why we landed on those lines in particular. And I will say, who is we? The Portland Neighbors Welcome Group. But I will say that by no means is that a definitive answer of how that's going to play out. This is entirely up to city staff to make final decisions on, but this is our proposal.
What about the role of the neighborhoods themselves? You say we, being you and city staff, but what about the people who the neighborhoods? What's their involvement in the process today? And
so we've been going to neighborhood associations and for doing these presentations. Us coming here today is part of trying to engage with you all, engage with anyone who might be interested in
engaging the planning part of it. This is in the selling part.
I mean, this is folks from Portland Neighbors Welcome are people that live in these neighborhoods and have gotten involved. So not. Have you
involved neighborhood associations in the planning part?
We've shown up to ask them to invite.
Have you asked
come and participate?
Have you come in with the planning piece of it? Or only the presentation after that you've done this?
Well, I would say this is by no means done. This is a process that is very much that's in a very early stage. Like I said, we're years out from anything being implemented. So this is our invitation for people to join the process.
So just to clarify, because you're in advocacy right now,
right.
And you're trying to see if there's community support for this idea. If this were to become a public planning process, there would be engagement with the broader community on just how this plays out in terms of zoning. But we're not there yet. We don't have our project. But if it were to be a public project, then there would have to be public input and community input.
Yeah, and the neighborhoods would be part of that process. It's required in the comp plan before city councils ever start adopting it. And, opportunities for public engagement along that process. So this is just an idea at this time.
Yeah.
Nothing's before city council yet.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it, John.
So have you done any sort of modeling? Like, I think it's all kind of premised on the idea that if you open up areas to development, to more dense development that currently don't allow that would somehow bring prices down for those properties to develop. Am I understanding the premise?
So it's a good question. So I think I would say that the research that we have seen shows that a broad zoning change does not either increase nor decrease a specific lot values. There are more directed zoning changes, say that increase a scarce number of lots who are to be able to be developed more intensely, will increase the values of those lots specifically. But the idea is that with a broader change, you don't really disrupt the land value element of the equation, but by allowing there'd be more homes on a single lot, that means that you will have a lower cost of housing for the actual homes that are built.
What do you mean by street scale apartments?
So the 4 floors and corner stores idea is, yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Does that help, John?
That does. Yeah, that clarifies a question that I had kind of lingering there.
Question. How does your proposal differ from what the city actually spent several years developing the Portland infill zoning project?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the residential infill project was, went through a process to change from having vast swaths of the city that were only allowing a single family home on lots to make it so that they would almost all allow a 4-plex, and then in some cases of like deep affordability, a 6-plex. What we've found is that throughout this Inner East Side area, very, very little is changing from and is being that residential infill project availability is not being used within this area with much frequency because land costs are already so high. And so the idea is that there's another tier basically of change of residential infill that we need to unlock in order for there to be a meaningful change in housing production within the Inner East Side. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, one thing I keep hearing out of this committee is just like the high cost of housing and how what that means for future Portlanders, what's that mean for our children, actual hypothetical, depending where you are in your life cycle. It's just this issue that isn't getting any better as the years advance into the current status quo.
Yeah, it's and I think that's the challenge, is that there really was a lot of hope that the residential infill project would be the thing that would help significantly, and it certainly made, there are new home ownership opportunities that are springing up in some areas, more like areas like Woodstock and Creston Kenilworth, Foster Powell have seen more of that develop, that change. But yeah, and I think the hard part is that it will only get harder the longer that we wait to address this. And so we're still already looking at a 3 to 4 year timeline, even if this were to come to fruition, for it even to be legalized, and then there's time to build after that. So I think what we see is a real urgency of moving and making decisions and having those conversations to figure out how we build neighborhoods that are welcoming to everyone.
Doug?
Yes, perhaps we could talk about a little about how displacement would occur or not occur with this program.
Good question. So I think zoning, I know this group knows it well, but I think the thing that is key about it is that all it is allowing the owner of a particular property to decide what they do or do not, like what they can do with that property. So this is by no means a change that should have significant effects on people who do not want there to be a change to their home. The area where the biggest question mark comes is around people who are renting today. And what we find is that, basically what we see is these much older apartments that have been around, you know, that were built back when, they were legal before 1981. That is what becomes often, it's called naturally occurring affordable housing. And the longer that and even in many places, say in Buckman, for example, a lot of the buildings that are that exist today could not be rebuilt as is with the current zone. So that downzoning was so thorough that those uses are non-conforming with the zoning code as it is today. And so what we see is basically with a scarcity of places for people for us to grow and for us to create new homes for people, the pressures of displacement grow more and more significant as supply is outstripped by demand. And so really what we're hoping for is to take pressure off of some of that naturally occurring affordable housing, so that folks won't be displaced by continuous rent increases, and that we'll have a different dynamic for and trajectory for the cost of housing.
Thank you.
So how's everyone feel about this proposal, or this idea, I should say?
Yeah.
Not proposal.
I'm just here as a guest, but we had this group came to our neighborhood association in South Tabor and delivered a similar presentation, and it was you know, received with open minds, I would say, by the members that were there. It's intriguing, and you know, it's the one complicated thing that we had, I think my question kind of got at that, was the idea of how it affects values. And I don't mean in the sense of, you know, if something like this were to happen, does my home value crater, so much as, you know, as a homeowner, so much as does it even make a dent in the cost of building new housing on the property? So you've increased the allowances, but housing is so expensive to build. And let's say this were to spur a housing boom of sorts, or, you know, any of the building that we actually need, as that's happening, the prices are going up because there's only so many people to build the stuff. The supplies become more expensive because there's a demand. So, I mean, I don't know that it's like a silver bullet thing, but it's definitely intriguing in terms of creating a type of city living, urban environment that I think is well suited to that area. That's my opinion. I'm not a voting member.
Thanks for that, John.
Yeah.
I think there are many complicated dynamics involved, so that you're spot on.
Should we take a quick poll? Like, would this group want to issue a recommendation to the South and Southwood Board Directors to study the Eastside All proposal more thoroughly through a public process? James, yes, or do you have a comment?
That's just a yes. I think it deserves more consideration.
Okay. I guess we have kind of a motion to issue a recommendation to the South and Southwood Board that the Eastside for All be studied more thoroughly. Any other committee members want a second? And this would be like any group in the district as of our fiscal year 23-24 boundaries. And I'm not seeing everyone, so sorry. I feel like just do the hand raise thing like Jane did, that'd be really awesome. Okay, I'm getting a thumbs up from Doug, awesome. And Lisa, awesome. Okay, any further discussion or should we just take the poll? All right, I guess committee members, if you support this proposal, please do the hand raise function. And that'd be you too, Pam, I guess, for Bradley Johnson. If you
Oh, am I a member of the committee voting?
So we're seeing like
Yeah.
study further. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5. Okay. Okay. All right, thank you all. Could lower your hands. And go and lower your hand, Lisa. All right, thank you. Anyone in opposition? Saying not comfortable making that recommendation today. All right. And any abstentions? Okay, so the recommendation passes. We'll make a recommendation to the Southeast Public Board directors to support a full study of the East Side for all.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate that openness discussion.
Yeah, great discussion, everyone. Really excited to see what this process yields in the end. So we're just at time. Cassie, are you here?
I'm
Yeah, Megan's here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Megan Neal. I'm with Earthquake Ready Burnside Bridge Project. Do you guys still have time for our presentation tonight?
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you were mentioning that we're close on time. Well, yeah, thank you everyone for allowing the project an opportunity to brief you this evening. I just will share my screen in a sec. My name is Megan Neal. I'm with Multnomah County. I am the design phase project manager for Earthquake Ready Burnside Bridge. And it's a real exciting time in the project. So really excited to come and talk to you tonight. We're about to go out to the general public with a range of bridge type options for the east approach span. And so tonight I just thought that I would walk you through just briefly where the project is and the overall status, talk through the range of options that are currently under consideration, some of the differentiating features between them, and then close with an overview of the public outreach campaign. It'll be launching on July 1st. And I'll try to monitor the chat, so feel free to raise your hand or ask a question, and hopefully I can grab it. And answer it. Okay. And just adjust my screen so I can see everyone. Okay. So just to briefly start off with, what is the Earthquake Ready Burnside Bridge project? Why is the county making this top priority bridge project for the next 10 or 15 years? At the end of the day, it really comes down to the risk of a major Cascadia subduction zone earthquake for this region. The latest studies show there is a 1 in 3 chance in the next 50 years there could be a magnitude 8+ earthquake off the coast of Oregon. And of our 9 bridges in downtown Portland carrying 41 lanes of traffic, that's tens and hundreds of thousands of people crossing them every day, none really will be immediately usable after this major quake, especially if you consider the vulnerability of the approaches. So really this earthquake could divide our region in two and leave people with a really challenging time to get home to their families, their loved ones, for emergency responders to get goods and services where they're needed, and then also just to help our region recover and rebuild after a major event. So really the county is looking at their suite of bridges that we maintain across the river and seeing which one should be the next seismically resilient. Well, the first seismically resilient crossing in downtown Portland for emergency response and recovery. And when looking at the bridges that we maintain, the Burnside Bridge really jumped out as to be that bridge. First of all, it's on a regionally established emergency transportation route. You can see some of them in blue on the map here. And what's so great about the Burnside corridor is that it really connects our region east-west. It goes about 19 miles all the way from Washington County to Gresham. It's relatively wide with few vulnerable structures over it and along it that could collapse, rendering it impassable during an earthquake. So really by investing in strengthening the link across the river, you go a long ways in allowing the corridor to fulfill its emergency transportation route designation. So we began this project it feels like a long time ago, but in transportation world, it was not too long ago. But back in 2017, we did a feasibility study to really identify what are the wide range of options to bring the Burnside crossing up to current seismic code, and that included twin bridges, stacked bridges, fixed bridges, tunnels, you name it. We wanted to be really broad. From that study, we identified 4 options that we advanced into an environmental review phase, which began in 2019. We actually just wrapped it up this year, and we came out of that phase with a preferred alternative. So I'll talk about a little bit about that in a sec. Now we have entered the design phase, which is now it's getting really exciting. So at the beginning of this year, we hired a designer and a contractor and a bridge architect, and we've been working together to take that preferred alternative and flesh out some structure types to ultimately decide on what the bridge will look like. In the design phase, we expect to be working all the way up through 2026. And while we are funded through the design phase, we are still looking for full funding for the construction phase. And should we be successful in that funding strategy, we could start construction as early as 2026 and have something open to the public in 2031. So let me talk through the design phase a little bit. So I mentioned that we selected a preferred alternative coming out of the environmental review phase. Here are 2 structure type options that we advanced into the design phase of the preferred alternative. You have the cable stay up top and then a tight arch along the bottom. I'll just walk through some of the key differences between the types that we've learned over the past 6 months through working with our architect, and then walk through some of the sub options of each type that we're currently considering. So one of the main key differentiators between the 2 types is height. The cable stay really pierces this the skyline. It's tall. It would be taller than the yard building, which is a quite tall residential building on the east side. So it really is something you could see from anywhere in Portland, essentially. Now with the tight arch on the bottoms of the screen, it's more lower profile, so allows the city to be more on view versus the bridge itself. And then next, materiality. With a cable stay structure, you're going to be constructing in concrete, so it gives a certain look and feel. And then with a tight arch, it will likely be weathering steel like the Selwood Bridge, just given the low maintenance, you don't need to paint it, which is painting is very expensive. So you have 2 very different material types between the 2 options. And then next, when looking at the Burnside Bridge from the steel bridge, your center of your focus is different between the cable stay and the tight arch. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll notice that on the top left, the arch will draw your eye towards the river because it's centered more over the freeway. However, the cable stay draws your eye more to the east because it is centered to the left of the freeway. And then if you're looking north to the Burnside Bridge towards the steel bridge, if you were in a boat, not many people have this view,
but the arch approaches more into the navigation channel on the top right, while the cable stay is nearly invisible when you're near the navigational channel, and your focus is more towards the center of the bridge. Just a couple more views. So these are views from the freeway. On the left-hand side, we have a hypothetical view from the I-84 ramps approaching into I-5. Again, the cable stay tower pulls your eye towards the east, while the arch straddles I-5 and pulls your eye towards the west. And then on the right-hand side, this is a view, hypothetically, if you're along I-5, the cable stay is pulling your eye towards the east, away from the river, and the arch is more centered over the highway and pulls and straddles it essentially. So those are just some details from the architectural studies. I'm not an architect, so I just probably provided the basics. But now I would like to walk through the sub options of each type that will be going out to the public here shortly in July 1st to talk about and get feedback. So the range of options you see on this screen is a short list from a broader range. We arrived at this range. All these options pass through a screening that the county applied. Basically, we wanted to only present options to the public that we felt were reasonable and feasible to construct. So they're relatively within what we consider reasonable when it comes to the cost, the schedule, this construction schedule, the risks that come with the construction method, as well as the impacts to adjacent stakeholders. And so I'll walk through each one in a little bit more detail. So first up, we've got a cable stay option we call the goalpost tower. It has two vertical stays putting in a way framing the gap. You can see in the top center picture of the view as you look eastbound. That's very similar to the Tillicum crossing, but just on a larger scale. You have a visual sense of openness, given that when you go through the towers, it's open to the sky. The next option is called a V tower, where, like the goalpost option, it's just a tweak on the goalpost option. So these towers lean outward to create a V shape. Another way of framing that view that goes through the view from headed eastbound, like you see in the top screen. This would be unique to Portland, and again has that visual openness throughout as you pass through it. Now the last cable stayed option is called an inverted Y. So it's more of a spire-like cable stay that really draws the focus it actually fills the gap as you look eastbound on the bridge deck. So dramatically different than the other two cable stay options. Again, this would be unique to Portland and could provide a gateway passage experience as you go through the tower. So the next three are arch options. The first one is a unbraced vertical arch. So as you pass through the arch, it's open to the sky with no connecting elements between the two arches. And it gives you that feeling of an open portal as you pass through it. The next option is a braced basket handle arch. So now the arches are leaning in and almost touching, and then have ladder-like braces as you go along the spine of the arch. This would also be unique to Portland's downtown bridge. And it has a slight sense of enclosure as you pass through it, as if you're going under an archway. And just one item to note is that this braced basket handle arch comes in two sizes, a smaller and a larger side. So in addition to the type, we are really interested in hearing from the community if they have a preference in terms of scale on 2 of the arch types. So here's just a view of 2 versions of the braced basket handle arch. The difference between the 2 as you would drive through it on a vehicular in a vehicle. And then the difference between the 2 options from the multi-use path. Okay, and then the final arch option is a braced vertical arch. So again, parallel arches, but connected by a lattice bracing, similar to the Wapato Bridge that connects to Savi's Island. It's also similar to the Fremont Bridge. So more of a sense of enclosure and kind of feeling like you're going through a portal. And again, this option comes in 2 sizes. So there's a few different scales to consider as you evaluate this option. So those are the 6 options. That's the range we'll be going out to the public and talking about. I'm just going to briefly flip through some comparison views. So all 6 options on the same screen, just getting a look and feel of the difference between the 6. So here's a view, bird's eye, looking eastward. Here's a view in Tom McCall Waterfront Park. Here's a view along I-5, headed north. Here's a view from I-84 connecting to I-5 southbound. Here's a view on the bridge deck heading eastbound. Same direction, but on the multi-use path. Multi-use path headed westbound. You see big pink in the background. And then just a bird's eye view looking west. So as I mentioned, we'll be going out to the public here very shortly. We will have an online open house from July 1st to July 31st with a survey. We're going to be adding some animations for the public to get a better sense of how these options feel in motion. We'll be hosting a couple live webinars from the Bridge Operator Tower. So anyone can come and ask questions, view the presentation, speak directly to the project team members. We're also going to be at OMSI one evening with a group of panelists that comprise of members of our team from the contractor side, the design side, the architecture side, the county owner side, as well as a member from our community design advisory group. There'll be refreshments. There'll be very casual cafe style seating, and we think it'll be a fun way to engage, the community can engage with in the project. We'll also be hosting a breakfast on the bridge on July 12th. So free coffee and donuts on the east side there. Folks can stop, learn about the project, pick up a postcard for the survey, have some sugar and caffeine on us. And then also we'll be doing tabling. Specifically at Portland Saturday Market, there couldn't be a better place to do outreach for the project. And then we'll be doing a number of briefings out in the community at community organizations and neighborhood associations. So, so please, while our website doesn't yet show all the online open house information, we'd love to pass that information along to this group when it is live. Well, that's just essentially what I wanted to share with the group today. I see there is a question in the chat, but feel free, happy to answer any questions you may have. So the question is, why wasn't this done during the 3 years of repairs that were made from 2017 and 2020 that cost millions of dollars? Yeah, the purpose of that maintenance project was to repair some of the elements of the bridge that had reached the end of its service life. So things that were within 10 or 15 years of breaking. And the intent of that investment was to keep the bridge going along in the hopes that we can find the funding for the full replacement. The bridge is 97 years old, so many of the lots of the concrete was crumbling onto the freeway below, some rusted steel and some critical joints. We did a resurfacing of the deck, so more of like a facelift on the bridge to keep it going for the next 10 or 15 years. Have those design options been costed out? Another question in the chat. So we did a preliminary cost estimate in 2022 of the project, and at that time the overall cost of the project was $900 million. We do know that since 2022 there's been a drastic increase in cost of transportation projects. There's no project across the nation that has not felt these increased costs. So we're working on updating our cost estimate, and we should have an updated range this fall after the bridge type is selected. And then from that point will be that'll be a conservative range since we're so early in the process. And then over the next few years, as we finalize the design, we'll work to bring the costs down as we make decisions and reduce uncertainty and work with our contractor to refine the price. Any other questions?
Can I ask a question? The slides you provided are really useful. Are those available, or will they be available online?
Yeah, we'll email this PDF to you immediately after the meeting. These graphics will also be used in the online open house in addition to videos.
I know they were looking at providing streetcar access across the new bridge, but I did not see that in the rendering, so that's still in the design.
Yeah, so we will design the bridge to support a future streetcar line. That being said, on the day of opening, there is no plan to have streetcar installed. So when the city is ready to put in that streetcar line, the bridge will be ready to accept it, but there's no current plans in the near term to install streetcar over the bridge, but it'll be ready to accept the design.
Awesome, thank you. I know, like you said, it'd be the only usable bridge after a major earthquake. So I don't suppose like the max streetcars could be routed over it because they're different widths, right? The two rail configurations.
So just to clarify, your question is, after an earthquake, could we run streetcar over the bridge?
No, like the max line, you
Oh,
know,
the
to talk
max.
about, you know, major seismic event, what happens to our light rail system?
Yeah, we talked to TriMet and they really didn't have any plans for for light rail for the Burnside Bridge. They're really focused right now on what to do with the steel bridge, given that it's the bottleneck of the entire system. So that is the reason why we didn't accommodate light rail on the bridge. I think so. I don't think it would be accommodated after the earthquake because this bridge was not designed. Well, the new bridge won't be designed to handle light rail.
Okay, Doug?
Here I am. Yeah, I have asked this question before and gotten that answer for before. It seems incredibly short-sighted to not to put, you know, build it as so it can handle the weight of the streetcar, but not upgrade it enough so it could also handle light rail. And the fact that TriMet says we don't have any plans at this time to do that. Well, yes, this bridge is going to last what 100 years. So, you know, TriMet doesn't know what's going to happen in 60 years or 80 years. They might wish that it had been designed for light rail. You know, besides which, what Matthew mentioned is the you know, if the steel bridge is taken out, which it very well likely would be, you know, this Burnside Bridge might come in handy, maybe just for something for 10 years or so. But it just seems very short-sighted to not do the extra incremental amount of reinforcing to hold light rail as well as streetcar. But I don't know if maybe that's not a question, that's a comment. So.
No, I appreciate that comment. I know there were some challenges too with realigning the tracks to go over Burnside. I think there were some geometric challenges as well, but yeah, I think they really would prefer to see a resilient solution on the steel bridge, and I think that's their main focus. I'll just go ahead and move to the chat. There's a few questions there. Since Burnside is a regional emergency transportation route, are you aware of any seismic requirements of properties along the route to ensure that buildings don't collapse over the route? No, I'm not aware of any specific seismic requirements that are related to being along a lifeline route. I will say though that what we've been thinking about is the bridge today actually is fused with several of the buildings on the east and west side. That's just when they widened the Burnside Street to accommodate this bridge, it cut into the face of adjacent buildings, and the bridge was built right up to the face of the building. So we are going to rebuild the new bridge to be at least 2 feet off those existing buildings so that when they shake, they don't shake and hit each other and cause damage. And that should also help reduce some of the debris that might fall on the bridge. But if there is debris that falls on the bridge, we'll just quickly clear it and allow the route to be passable. Okay, the next question is the Tillicum crossing is earthquake ready. So the crossing itself over the river is absolutely earthquake ready. It's just the approaches still sit on liquefiable soil. So there would just take a little bit of time to address any collapse or deformation on the approaches to get the main crossing back up and running. There are also 405 overpasses along the route to the Tillicum Bridge on the west side that would collapse in an earthquake. So it would take some time to clear out that debris in order to get the route back up and running. And I think it's wonderful that TriMet has a resilient bridge. We need all the bridges to be resilient. So that being said, it is a little bit challenging to get to, given its location. It's kind of more on the southern end of downtown, and it's only carrying 2 lanes. So we still feel like there's a strong need for a very central, what we're proposing, a 4-lane bridge, so that our region can easily cross the river and then respond and recover. Are there any other questions?
I didn't see what the access from the East Bank Esplanade is currently being proposed as. Like, is that in the renderings? Did I just not see it, or is it?
Yeah, I don't think it was shown in the renderings. So we're still in conversations with the city of Portland about the staircase that currently connects the bridge to the Esplanade. We did work through a study together over the last year that explored some ramp options, but ultimately it wasn't feasible to include a ramp as part of this project. So we're looking at what else can we do with the staircase, given that it's not accessible. So we should have a decision on that here this summer, but unfortunately, a ramp will not be included as part of this project.
So we're like thinking about elevators to have access from those 2 points?
We did look at elevators as well. we heard an overwhelming response from the community that they found elevators very concerning in terms of public safety, sanitation, and reliability. And I think the fact that it's located not in a populated urban center, that it's kind of away from general view of pedestrians and folks using the network, that there was more increased concerns over public safety and sanitation than there might be at a more populated urban location. There's another question in the chat. What's the plan for reinforcing the steel bridge? Is that work cheaper? Wouldn't it be easier to just make the new Burnside accommodate light rail? So I don't know the plan for the steel bridge. And I'm not sure if it's cheaper. And TriMet is very adamant that they're not interested in putting light rail on a new Burnside bridge. Any other questions?
Well, and if there isn't, thank you so much. Really appreciate the overview and presentation, and we'll look forward to that open house survey in just a couple more weeks.
Great, and thank you again for the opportunity to share a project today. We'll send the presentation over after this meeting, and we'll follow up with the online open house details. Thanks again, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
So the last things we had was like any meeting agenda topics for next month, anything that you all want to raise, or if not, just feel free to email me too. You can get that anytime. So I make sure you all feel like empowered that you can participate and, you know, curate some of the things that we talk about in Southeast Uplift. Likewise, like anyone too. Well, I guess I'll just end it right there, and, you know, I just called the meeting adjourned, but we can hang out and talk if you all want to for the next few minutes as well. But thanks for making it out tonight.
Thanks much, too.
Like that arch design.
Yeah, the arch is beautiful.
Thanks, Machu. This was a great meeting. Lot of, I'm overloaded with information.
Awesome. I'll see you tomorrow night. I'll be at your meeting.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, great. See you then. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.